This podcast is sponsored by Genelec. If you've ever been disappointed with the way your mixes sound on other playback systems, then check out Genelec's Unio monitoring ecosystem. By providing a seamless bridge between loudspeaker and headphone monitoring, Unio allows you to quickly create great sounding mixes that translate consistently wherever you choose to work. No more guesswork, no more surprises, just truthful, accurate audio monitoring from stereo to immersive. To find out more, visit genelec.com/Unio, spelt UNIO. Your mixers will thank you for it.
Welcome to the Production Expert Podcast. I'm Ashea, and in this edition, I'm joined by Arnd Kaiser, Product Designer and Strategist at Fender Musical Instruments, and Tony Carridi, who is Global Revenue and Go-to-Market Executive at Fender PreSonus. We're going to be discussing, as you can probably guess, the new Fender rebrand, answer any questions, and hopefully, as they've convinced me, convince you that it's all in very, very good hands, and it always has been. Cool. Could you tell us what you believe the main moment was that inspired you to do what you do?
Oh, wow. Yeah, sure. Arnd, you want to go first?
No, you go first. I have to think about, way back.
So I started my my kind of passion ignited for this when I was, probably in middle school, and I started playing guitar, and I was a very decent guitar player, not great. But then, moving forward, I was in a band in high school, and we went to this like local guy's place to record like an album. And it was in like this crusty old basement. And it was kind of a mad scientist vibe down there. And he had things that I'd never seen. He had samplers. I mean, this is going back to like the late 80s. So, and I'd never seen, any kind of computer-based sequencers or stuff like that. And he had a pretty elaborate setup for, some guy down in his basement in the suburbs in New Jersey. And I was fascinated with it. He was playing like orchestral parts on a keyboard and triggering crowd noises. And, we were recording to ADAT. And I was like, wow, this is really so cool. So it inspired me to get a 4-track. So I bought a Tascam Fender Studio, and then got an Alesis Quadriverb. I had an Alesis 3630 compressor, and I think I forget the drum machine. I had a cheap little drum machine and an SM57 and, a guitar and an amp, and I was off to the races. And I just fell in love with the production side of it. So after, going way fast forward, after college, I was living in San Francisco, and, I had a friend of mine was working at a pro audio shop, and I said, I have this computer and I have this 4-track. There's got to be a better way to record. Like, what kind of software is available, and what can you recommend? And at the time, he's like, "Hey, you got to get Pro Tools." And I was like, "Okay, well, what's that about?" And this was in '95, so it was early years for Pro Tools. It was like Pro Tools 3 had just come out, like we just hit like 16 tracks of recording.
Wow.
And it was like, I don't know, it was going to be like 15 grand or something back then to get in, because like a 2 gigabyte hard drive was going to be like $2,000. And, everything was like a lot. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't afford that. I'm like working in restaurants at the time.
Yeah.
And he goes, hey, you know what? They're located about 20 miles south of here in Palo Alto, and they're hiring, and they've got this great employee purchase program. So you could go work there and like get a rig for really cheap. I was like, that sounds like a great idea. So that was my main motivation initially for going to work at DigiDesign and getting, my first Pro Tools system. And yeah, the rest is history. I spent a long time at Avid, roughly 20 years, and worked in a few other great companies in the industry, including Apogee. Worked at Dolby for a little bit, and I've been at Fender now for just over a year and a half.
Fabulous. I mean, what a great story. I can really identify with falling in love with the production part as well. I'm not sure. I think it starts for a lot of us, just trying to get ideas down and then realizing, wow, this is actually really fun, and then falling in love with the process. At least for me, that was definitely the case. So Arnd, what's your story?
Originally, my first interest and passion was electronic music and synthesizers. So I'm actually not a guitar player. I play a few chords, but my main instrument is synthesizer or keyboards. And I started in my early teens, actually, trying to learn everything I can about synthesizers. And I was able to get a part-time job after school in a local music shop. So that got me into the industry at a very young age, and I was able to make some money on the side to actually purchase some keyboards cheap so I could play in bands. And I was later asked to join a distribution company here in Germany and become a product manager for keyboard products such as brands like Ensoniq, Oberheim, Kurzweil at that time, and then later Alesis. So ADAT, I was there when the ADAT came out. I did the first demo at a Frankfurt Music Messe with 2 prototypes when I was a product manager in distribution. And then my software career really started when I joined Steinberg in 2003, which is when I moved here to Hamburg, where I still live. So I've been doing software as a product manager for a couple of years. And then when I joined PreSonus as a general manager of software, that was in 2012. So I've been with the team here, the software development team in Hamburg, since 2012.
Wow. Amazing. How did you feel when software became a thing as well, after having, because I listen to a lot of people, and I think old schoolers as well, particularly, they feel like it kind of needs to be hard. If it's not hard, then it's not worth it. I hear that a lot. And perhaps sometimes we have it very easy these days, and people have different opinions about that. But how did you feel, Arnd, when things became a lot easier?
Yeah, I mean, these phases music production software has been going through since, for the past 20 years or even longer, 20, 30 years almost, has been mostly driven by technology. Computers becoming more powerful. First, it was only MIDI, then audio was added, then we got plugins and virtual instruments and so on. So this was all technology driven. Interestingly, the ADAT, at a time where there was this clear distinction between home recording and professional recording, and you either had a 4-track cassette, Porter Studio, or maybe you could afford an 8-track or 16-track machine, and nobody could afford multi-track digital at that time. So when the ADAT came out, that was actually not technology driven. That was a deliberate decision by some pioneers in the industry who decided to use this format, videotape, and put digital audio on it. And a lot of this technology has made its way into hard disk recording and then digital audio workstation much, much later. So what looks like only a very short time in history, when the ADAT came out and this whole project studio market developed, that was only a few years. But the benefits from that time you still have today, because there's affordable audio interfaces, affordable compressors, affordable studio microphones. Yep. Like, this whole market was created by these digital tape machines, 8-track tape machines, like the ADAT or the DA88. And we tend to forget about that. I mean, everybody knows ADAT is this 8-track optical audio format that almost every interface has still today. That's what's left. But I think we all benefit from that technology and that time today. Just not aware of it anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Would you agree with that, Tony? I would.
There's no doubt that was like the first. That was the very beginning of what became a complete avalanche of, digital audio technology.
The Production Expert Podcast is made possible using the new Source Nexus suite from Source Elements, the professional way to collaborate over the internet, along with high-definition, low-latency audio and video. Need to record an interview or a podcast, or collaborate with others for songwriting, review and approval, remote editing, and more. With Source Nexus Suite, using any browser, you'll get studio-quality audio and video, along with custom-built tools for seamless integration with your DAW. Pricing starts at free. Get your account today at sourceelements.com.
For those listeners who don't know, can you share what Fender Studio is and what exactly was announced with the rebrand?
Fender Studio is it's a family of products, and it's an ecosystem, and it's all centered around Fender Studio Pro software. It also includes plugins like the Fender Mustang and Rumble amps, the Fender Quantum interfaces, the motion production controllers that we announced as well at NAMM, and the fader port control services. So it's a whole family of products that support music creation and production. So what was announced at NAMM was, or it's actually slightly before, what was announced in January, I should say, was Fender Studio, was that Studio One Pro. The next version was going to be Fender Studio Pro 8. And we also at the same time announced the Fender Quantum LT audio interfaces, which were a family of 3 audio interfaces, the LT2, LT4, and LT16. The Fender Motion controllers were also announced at the same time. And then the last piece of it was the rebrand of the existing PreSonus Quantum HD2 and HD8s. Those were simply rebadged as the Fender Quantum HD2 and HD8. So all in all, it was a big brand introduction, product vision and strategy announcement and introduction, a major software release, and quite a few new hardware interfaces and controllers as well.
Yeah, and I mean, from what I've seen, and I wasn't a Studio One user, so I've completely fresh looking at it. It looks incredibly intuitive. And I know quite a few guitar players that aren't necessarily engineers or producers, and I think that workflow would really suit them. So from that perspective, I think it's a success. But obviously, you get some people that weren't too happy. So can we sort of just address the elephant in the room and a bit about the main kind of feedback? And was it really a big issue?
The interface is extremely intuitive. It's been intuitive for many years, since the beginning. It's always, it was pioneered this whole drag and drop approach to production. It has, many people say it's almost, I heard something funny last week. It's like we showed somebody Fender Studio Pro for the first time who's been a long time user of a couple other workstations, and he goes, it looks like, it's kind of like if DAWA and DAWB had a baby, and this is what came out because it's like the best of both worlds. I spent a long time working at Avid, going back it's probably more than 15 years now, but it's going back a while. We did a research study back then, and it was, out of all the users Pro Tools had back then, it was like 70% of them started playing guitar first. And then fast forward, Fender did a market research study that was much more broad. And they found that, just in the US alone, the market size for general musicians is like 90 million people. And out of those 90 million, about a third of those, about 30 million, 31 million, play a fretted instrument. So let's say a guitar, bass, ukulele, whatever. So it's a pretty big right there. But the other part of it that was kind of shocking is that 71% of them, of those 31 million, record their music. There was a group of people that were obviously upset about the brand transition, and there was some concern around, some fears around what that meant. Does that mean that Fender now is going to tank the company? Does that mean they're going to turn their backs on, anyone that's not a guitar player? Both of those things are completely not true, not happening. We tried to, engage a lot during that time online just to make sure we were as clear and kind of transparent and communicative as possible. But, an important part of telling the story was that, Fender purchased PreSonus 4 years earlier. The version 6 and version 7 of Studio One Pro were both already under the ownership of Fender.
Yes, exactly. And that's a good point, because I think maybe people are thinking you've just sort of rolled up and then taken over and changed it, but that's definitely not the case.
Yeah, it's been, I mean, there's already been a decent track record of innovation and investment. And Art can tell you, like, the team in Hamburg is the same team. I mean, he came over and was, one of the original people there.
Yeah, and I say this again, the acquisition actually happened 5 years ago, and I think it was a very deliberate decision and a deliberate process to find out what is best for the product, for the team, not change things overnight, but a lot of things like subscription. We started doing subscription before the acquisition, but we've tweaked it during and after the acquisition, looking at how the market works, looking at how people react to it, what they want from a subscription, what makes them comfortable subscribing to software. So we took years perfectioning that, and we're very happy with where things are today, and it's doing really well, side by side with a perpetual license. And so everything that led up to this moment in January, for some people it was a surprise. For other people, it was a logical next step in this evolution of two companies coming together. But on the inside, I mean, this of course looks very different because we've been working on this for more than a year. We've launched our Fender Studio app, the free app that's on every mobile and desktop device, multiple operating systems.
Cool.
Something really unique in this category. We launched that in May of last year. So this was all kind of leading up to this moment in January. So for some people, it was a surprise. For other people, it wasn't. So the way how with social media today, whenever there's something announced, you get an immediate reaction. And very often it's a reaction by people who haven't even read the article to the end. But something that we saw even within the first 24 hours was people making comments, concerned, but then immediately other people jumping in and saying, no, hold on, this could be a good thing. And within 2 or 3 days, the whole thing completely turned around, right? So
yeah, a lot of people are sort of traditionalists and they like it a certain way, and then it's difficult but once they get used to it, I think, so you can clear up that there won't be a massive push towards sort of hardware integration that's becoming, a closed ecosystem. I think that was another potential fear.
Well, I mean, hardware integration has always been one of our strengths, and there are not many companies who have both within basically the same building. Like this team here in Hamburg does application software development, but we also do the integration. So the way how our interfaces are integrated, that you have remote controllable mic pre's, that everything is plug and play, with the way how our controllers are integrated. This is stuff you can only do if you have full control, right? We can't have that level of integration with other hardware controllers, and our controllers don't have that deep integration with other software.
So it's a huge benefit to have both, like we do. But if the concern that you were reflecting was that this is going to turn into a closed ecosystem where we will stop supporting either other hardware with the software or other software with the hardware, that would be a really dumb business move. So we definitely wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. I mean, I think it's really positive, and I think people are coming around to it. I've seen people, saying, okay, I trashed it at first, but now I realize I was wrong. I mean, what is not to like? It's the same thing with a rebranding, and it's got some extra really fantastic features with Fender quality plugins as well and added. And if you think about the different DAWs, I mean, Pro Tools easily was sort of the biggest player for audio for years and years and years. And I loved using the audio in Pro Tools. But because I came into it from a songwriting and beat making perspective, I chose Logic over Pro Tools, even though I preferred the audio. And I think maybe that's the same or a similar thing that you will get with musicians and guitarists as well. Is that kind of what you were thinking and where you're heading?
Well, this is really difficult. I mean, there are people using Studio One or Studio Pro for recording, but then they move maybe to Pro Tools for mixing. But then there are other people who do the exact opposite. They use Pro Tools for tracking because maybe the studio only has Pro Tools, but then they move things into Studio Pro for mixing because they believe the mix engine sounds better. I mean, who knows? We're not aware of any differences, and there's this famous null test where you can prove that basically every Pro digital audio workstation sounds the same. But then if people feel more comfortable mixing in a certain environment, then that's what they should do. But that's not our concern. But we're not limiting ourselves to our ecosystem. We talk to other hardware companies. We talk to other software companies. We collaborate with software companies like Bitwig, for example, in order to develop new technologies and standardize those and make them available to the entire industry, because we believe it's a important factor, to move things forward as an industry. So we're really open-minded people, and I think there's a lot you can expect, coming from that kind of cross-company collaborations.
Definitely. So just to summarize for everyone listening, what exactly is changing with the Fender rebadging and what's not changing? So people can just sort of, look at the summary and think, okay, well, yeah, this is actually a good thing.
If somebody's a Studio One Pro user, let's say they're on version 7, 6, or whatever, and they upgrade to Fender Studio Pro 8, the interface is going to look, it's going to look entirely familiar. It's going to look like it's updated a little bit more modern, but the layout is the same. The key commands, like everything functions the same way. We've added a lot of great new features like the audio to MIDI, AI-driven audio to MIDI. We've added, a great chord assistant, a channel overview, arrangement overview. Obviously the Mustang, the Fender Mustang, and the Rumble amps.
Yeah, really cool.
All, the Sample One and Impact were updated. A lot of amazing, great things. It's a huge update in and of itself, and the name has changed and the branding has changed. So, to the extent where how is it going to impact my workflow? It's just going to get better and more powerful. And then on the hardware side, there's no incompatibilities. Nothing's changed in terms of what works with what. So it's really just all upside. And that's, this is a big branding moment for us, but the kind of pace of innovation and the drive to make this workstation better has we've always had, our foot on the gas pedal.
Yeah, it's a different brand, but it's version 8, not version 1 of a new software. So some people, I remember seeing some comments that people were concerned that we were taking features out. Of course, we did not take any features out. We've only added features, and we keep doing that, of course. And the rebranding, that's obvious because we now have the two R&D teams working together, so we can do plugin versions of Fender amps. And we're doing these plugins here in Hamburg with a dedicated team. So that's part of, or a good example for the opportunity. But then Tony already mentioned the updates we did to the virtual instruments. And then if you look at that part and combine it with the new motion controllers that we also introduced at NAMM, that's addressing a completely different audience. And then, why wouldn't you use a pad controller as a guitar player? It's something you cannot separate today.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's not a guitar player DAW because it has Fender branded amps included. But of course, that's something that attracts guitar players. But at the same time, we're working on our virtual instruments. We're working on all new plugins. So we are definitely going to stay where we are, addressing the same customer.
And it just seems a lot easier to stay in that creative flow that we talk about a lot on the podcast as well. And every time I talk to incredibly successful engineers, producers, what have you, they always talk about how important it is to stay in the flow and not be distracted. So, and there are some great updates in there that really allow users to do that, which is only a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's still work to do on the mixer. There's still work to do on the automation. We've been collecting feedback from customers since day one. We have a dedicated website where people can post feature requests and vote on feature requests. So that gives us a pretty good snapshot of where we are at any given time. I like to look at this basically once every day. So that's areas where we will see new features coming out. But as you said, what's really fun is the creation part, where as a songwriter, I now have tools that take me through the writing process much faster. So the danger of forgetting a great idea before you could capture it, that's a thing of the past, because everything is so fast and snappy. And then having tools like this audio to note conversion, built-in tools like stem separation, it's so much faster now to build some backing tracks to your own performance, because not everyone is a multi-instrumentalist. Not every guitar player also knows how to program drums, of course. So there's a lot happening there, and there are more exciting things to come, actually.
Yeah. So what can we expect over, for the next 2 to 5 years? Have you got anything? I mean, you've already said you've got some exciting things planned. So can we get a little teaser?
Yeah. Well, I already mentioned the audio to note conversion, which is a good example where the separation between audio and MIDI is getting less and less important. So there's some new technologies and improvements to technologies we're already using that will take that to another level. And then when you look at integrations, like we have the Splice integration, we have Tonelic, which is a brilliant concept, wonderful product from our friends at Celemony. Those are good examples for very successful partnerships where we go beyond just bundling something. It's not like we bundle a plugin. This is deep integration. This is deep workflow integration where teams of 2 companies work together for months and months.
This is true collaboration.
This is true collaboration. And part of that is also developing new standards. Like we developed ARA together with Celemony a long time ago, actually. Yeah, so that's something you will also see in the future, which I'm actually very excited about.
So it sounds incredibly forward-thinking. And we do need to, you're saying attract the next generation of serious users, and things are changing, whether we like it or not. We've got AI. Things need to be more streamlined, more intuitive, easier to quicker. If you don't do that, you sort of get left behind, and you are clearly moving with the times. Some people perhaps prefer to sort of stay traditional, but it all sounds quite exciting.
Well, yeah, I think it's an interesting dynamic that we have, because there are there's obviously a big group of folks that are like older, like Art and I, that are kind of generally you like the way things work, or you don't. You have little nits about stuff, but you're familiar with the workflow, and you're comfortable with the familiarity of it. And it's important because if you want to be creative, you want to get stuff done, you don't want to get, you don't want to get slowed down by things that are, you're relearning or whatever. So it's important to have muscle memory and just like to be able to work quickly. It becomes like a language, that you become fluent in. But then you mentioned AI. You have this, you have a new cohort of users, of up and coming aspiring musicians or aspiring producers or mixers, or all of them. There's a fresh new crop coming every year, and they see the world really differently. They're growing. The expectations are a little different. The attention spans might be shorter. The expectation that they have to get to take a song from start to finish, their expectations are probably that it goes a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So it definitely raises the expectations for us to kind of meet them where they are, in some respects, so that we can continue to make the workflows quicker and snappier. To your earlier point.
Yeah, and I honestly think it benefits everyone.
This podcast is sponsored by Genelec. If you've ever been disappointed with the way your mixes sound on other playback systems, then check out Genelec's Unio monitoring ecosystem. By providing a seamless bridge between loudspeaker and headphone monitoring, Unio allows you to quickly create great sounding mixes that translate consistently wherever you choose to work. No more guesswork, no more surprises, just truthful, accurate audio monitoring from stereo to immersive. To find out more, visit genelec.com/Unio, spelt UNIO. Your mixers will thank you for it.
Can you talk about the new feature, the panning feature, because that sort of speaks to that point that you were saying? Because we're all used to sort of, touch screens and everything being, again, using the word intuitive, but that's the case. Just sort of grabbing things and moving them around. And I really liked how you can just select the different tracks and then change the panning without grouping them or doing sort of fiddly things there. And that seems like a sort of example of moving with the times.
Yeah, you have basically ad hoc grouping. Just select multiple tracks, and as long as they're all selected, they're grouped. And then when you click another track, that's gone. But what's also interesting is when you do immersive audio mixing, you can easily move from stereo to Dolby Atmos or back, and it will keep all your pan settings, even though the panners are different panners at that point. Yeah, so there's technology, sophisticated technology in the background, but you don't need to care. You don't have to even think about it.
What inspired that?
Well, I mean, we looked at what's happening in other DAWs, and then when switching from stereo to 7.1.4, and it resets all your panners. Or when you switch from a bad channel to an object, resets the panners. We just decided that's not good workflow. So there's some tricky mathematics happening in the background. So it's not like, oh yeah, let's just make it easier, and then it's easier. It took a while to make that work. But these are things where we always try to, even if we're not the first to introduce a new feature, we always try to look at it from a workflow perspective and try to make it easier to use. And then, of course, we all want it to be consistent. So even if you're new to Studio Pro, it does most things with drag and drop. And it's a good idea to try drag and drop first before you start searching for something in the menu, for example. Yeah, so that's part of our culture, and this has been there since version 1. So there's a clear, straight line, even though it's now under a different brand with a slightly different name.
Yeah,
and a more polished user interface. But those workflow principles have always been there, and of course we'll maintain this kind of focus.
And so, could you speak to a little bit about the community and maintaining trust as well, and things like upgrades as well, pricing. I think people get a little bit scared about that kind of thing, but you seem to be all about transparency. So yeah.
In terms of the pricing, it's been consistent, and if there is a trend, it's been consistently going down. Going back a few years, the price to get into a perpetual license for Studio One Pro was significantly higher than it is today. The upgrade to Fender Studio Pro 8 for users of previous versions is only $99. That's $50 less than it used to be. So we haven't sprung any nasty surprises on the market. The truth is we need to be competitive. So we're not here to try to take advantage or milk the customer dry or anything kind of evil like that. We really are just trying to get the product in people's hands so they can enjoy it and make great music with it. As far as the transparency with with releases, if that was part of the question. I think software software development is not always a straight predictable line. Uh, so there's constant innovation and releases planned. We don't always know how many releases are going to happen exactly in a year, or how long it's going to take to develop certain things. Sometimes there are things you don't anticipate being more difficult or taking a little bit longer time. There's also, occasionally Art mentioned that we collaborate with other companies. Sometimes there's dependencies outside of our control. So you try to be as transparent as you can. And then the other thing that Art mentioned that applies here is the feature request page, which is very active. That team monitors that and engages with it very closely. So we continue to do that. And then another thing that we do here is, it's kind of unofficial, but we have something we call a creator council, where we pull together a handful of users, and we try to have a variety of people in different representing different musical genres, and also different kind of functions, whether they're artists themselves or producers, kind of both sides of the glass, if you will. So that's these are all ways that we try to stay plugged in and engage, and try to give some transparency, but for obvious reasons, you can't have an open dialogue with hundreds of thousands of people about what your roadmap is going to be.
No, that would be rather amusing.
For anyone on the outside, it would be.
I think it would be awesome. I just don't want to be the person moderating that conversation. I should also mention we have meetups. The first Studio One meetup we did, I think, at NAMM 2020, in person at the show, which was great. It was like a big party. But then we broke this out into regional meetups that independent people like users, beta testers, some of our moderators would organize. But then COVID hit, so the meetups all went virtual overnight. And I think they mostly continued being virtual, but we usually have a meetup once every month somewhere, sometimes several a week.
Yeah, fun. So what would you say your favorite feature of the update?
You have to pick your favorite child now, Art.
Well, I said I'm not a guitar player, so I'm very excited about the audio to note conversion, which is super useful, and it works hand in hand with other features we already had. So that kind of filled a workflow gap for me personally, and all of the and it's impossible to pick one feature, but all of the improvements and enhancements that we've done to the built-in instruments, including the user interface overhaul, design overhaul that we did, that as a package to me is probably my personal favorite feature. But I have to say, I'm also using the Mustang Native plugin with the line amp, basically meaning the amp being in bypass, and then I use it like a pedal board. I love guitar pedals with synthesizers. I actually have quite a few guitar pedals at home in my studio, which I'm using with my hardware synthesizers, and I love to combine those with plugins. And being able to work with a plugin like with a pedal board, like a real pedal board, and I think there's over 70 pedals. I think I haven't even tried them all, so that's super exciting to merge that with like a Mini Moog or a Waldorf. I just got a Waldorf Protein wavetable synthesizer, little box, super affordable. Great to pair that with guitar pedals.
Yeah, that's a really good trick actually, because it's incredibly inspiring, and it's you can come up with some absolutely insane sounds, as you know. So Tony,
I love the Mustang and the Rumble amps. It's hard to say that's not my first favorite if I had to put them in rank order. But I think the UI, just the new kind of fresh layout, to me makes working in it just feel so much enjoyable, much more enjoyable. So I'd say the amps, the UI update in general, and then audio to MIDI. Um, the channel overview I love too. I just find it a really convenient look and way to work. The chord, the updates to the chord integration are great as well. If you want to try out new ideas and kind of just test, what would it be like if this went to the minor third instead, and you just literally click, drop down, change the chord, gives you some nice recommendations. It's pretty phenomenal. And
Super cool.
and I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Tone Master Pro integration again, because that is, if you are a guitar player and you have a Tone Master Pro, you have like the world's best audio interface for guitar players. And they integrate, when you connect it to Fender Studio Pro, you can put it into a transport control mode. So now not only can you record and you get, all these phenomenal models, the best models that Fender have and the best models in the industry, that it also controls Fender Studio Pro. So I can go into record. So if I'm standing up, because you wear a guitar, right? So sometimes you could be sitting, but either way, your hands are occupied when you have a guitar. So with Tone Master Pro, I can simply use the foot switches to go into record, to stop, play, go back to 0. I can punch in with it. So it's just like, to the fact that it frees up your hands. And I know it's a very basic integration. There's a lot more we can do there, but just that alone makes it just a phenomenal experience. This is a brand transition. This is also, it's a major release, but this also is the start of a strategy that is going to not only build upon what PreSonus and Studio One Pro has done an amazing job with over the past, 15 years or more, but also, continue to innovate, continue to create really amazing workflows for all musicians, but also guitar players too, right? So it's not an either or thing. There's a great opportunity for the guitar player market and we think Fender is in a position to do a great job developing, incredible workflows for them. But at the same time, it's not an either or thing, it's an and. So we're going to continue to develop amazing workflows for composers, keyboard players, beat makers, producers, people that are making music of all genres. So it's an exciting time, and there's an exciting bright future for Fender Studio Pro.
And maybe adding to that, to those people who were concerned about the future of Studio One, now Studio Pro, or concerned about the team behind the software, I just want to reassure everyone that it's still the same team. It's still the same people in the same place. We've actually grown the team quite a bit since the acquisition. We've doubled our office space here, which doesn't really happen very often nowadays. People usually reduce or get rid of their offices entirely. We doubled our office space in order to be able to hire more software engineers. So we're in good shape. And there are some exciting things coming this year.
Yeah, I think it sounds very exciting. And so congratulations. Cool. Thank you very much, both of you. That's been a really, really fun chat.
This has been a pleasure.
Thanks for having us on the podcast. I was terrified because of the quiz.
Really?
Yeah, well, I didn't prepare for the interview. I only prepared for the quiz. No, I'm kidding.
He was up all night doing, FM synthesis studies.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I already had 6 meetings today, and I had to jump out of one meeting to make it to the podcast in time. So,
oh my goodness,
no preparation possible. So there's no cheating. No cheating
happened. But you're a nerd. You're a synth nerd, clearly.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I could shine sometimes with my synth nerdiness.
And you were very good as well, Tony.
Well, that's what has made Studio One like so great. Arndt's been like the main product lead on this for how many years have you been the product owner?
14 in a few months. Yeah. But I mean, almost everyone here plays some instrument, and we have a small group of synth nerds. But we also have guitar players. We have most of the new developers we hired. Of course, they wanted to work at Fender, so they're all guitar players, obviously. Yeah. So
this group is a bunch of musicians, guitar players, people who love this industry, people who love the product, that are really passionate about making the product as amazing as it could be. I think it's sometimes that because it's a big world that's all connected with the internet, it's easy to think, maybe it's just a bunch of suits over here and they're just making these decisions and it's all greed and this and that. And it's like there's these people, the people I work with that Arnd works with, many of them have been in this industry for a long time. We love it. We've got a lot of friends, relationships that we've created over many years, and we just we love the product, and we're passionate about the product, and we're passionate about the industry, and we want to bring the best possible product to the industry to make it easier for people to make music and get inspired and get a lot of joy out of it.
We love that, and your passion shines through, absolutely, and your knowledge. Both of your knowledge is fantastic. So, well, thank you very much, and best of luck with the product. Not that you need it, and I'm just excited to see what the future holds.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Well, that's all we have time for. Thanks again to Tony and Arnd, and we'll be back next time with another edition of the Production Expert Podcast.